Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you, and welcome back to Join the Mahdi. And as always, I'm your host, Ardijan and Mahdi.
And I'm Alexandra Mahdi.
So, in this month, the month of March, it is the month of spring. It is a month where flowers grow. It is a month of, basically, you could say renewal or rebirth, in a cyclical manner. But it is also, for the majority of the Muslims out there today, it is also the month of Ramadan. So because it's a month of Ramadan, what do the Muslims tend to do? Well, the Muslims, from the beginning of the day, from the time of Fajr, all the way up until sunset, so from the time of dawn up until dusk, the Muslims abstain from eating, from drinking, and from having intimacy with their spouses throughout the whole day up until nightfall, up until dusk. However, there is a lot that we need to go over regarding the fasting of the month of Ramadan, and if the Muslims are even doing it correctly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a lot, So the majority of the people who are, believing themselves to be Muslims and, following the religion of Islam, they believe that right now it is Ramadan. But maybe we can get onto that, a bit later, because I think, first we should talk about, what does Ramadan truly mean? Okay, why are people fasting in Ramadan? What's the reason, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family made it obligatory to fast during Ramadan? It's because it's to develop this sense of empathy, well, one of the reasons is to develop this sense of empathy, with people who are truly starving, with people who are going through an extreme lack of food. And another reason is to weaken the self, to weaken the ego, to deny the self what it wants, which is, to eat good food. But what we see during the Ramadan, the way that the Muslims today they go about this month is it seems to be like a big eating celebration, basically, when the sun goes down, and it seems they're indulging in whatever they want, whatever they can, and as much food as they can eat, basically. But is this really what Ramadan is supposed to be? Is this truly like a denial of the self? Is this truly developing empathy with people who are actually starving, if we're just stopping eating during the day but then feasting at night time?
Yeah, I think Muslims, they have taken the month of Ramadan to be a month where if they starve themselves, they're going to get brownie points with God. That suddenly they're going to have like a good check mark with God because they just simply didn't eat during the time that the sun was up. But, as you said, and this is clearly something that many Muslims, even back in the day, used to say, which is that when you fast, the main intention that you're supposed to have is you're supposed to develop some sort of empathy for the poor. You're supposed to understand what it means to be poor. And, I don't think that the Muslims actually quite understand what the spirit of Ramadan is all about.
Because, why do we need to develop this level of empathy for people who are starving? It's because, what's the point of the religion? The point of the religion, and as we discussed this topic yesterday, it's, to help our fellow human being, to not allow, our fellow human being to starve, basically.
Exactly.
And when we go through this process of developing empathy for people who are in this situation, then that makes us more likely, less likely to carry on allowing it, to intervene and, help our fellow brother and sister in humanity.
Exactly. And, but then we have to have like some sort of guideline, I suppose, as to what it means to be poor.
Yeah.
Well, one thing for certain regarding, a person being in a poor state is, for sure, a poor person is not eating all sorts of luxurious foods that they can imagine. And for certain, they would not be eating something such as meat and delicacies and really nice tasting foods because it's expensive. If you're a poor person, most likely you're probably working throughout the day instead of hibernating during the day. And you're working, sweating all day in order to accumulate enough wealth.
Yeah.
In order that as soon as work is done, at the end of the day, that is when you purchase your food, or that is when you are able to now cook for yourself food. But this food that you cook is only something that allows you to live in order to continue the next day so you could accumulate more wealth and survive in this cruel world. But I suppose we can go over the very first clip and we can judge for ourselves. And this is something that a lot of Muslims do, by the way. This is not something that this man is doing, but many Muslims are doing what this man is doing. And for sure, everyone can be the judge as to whether or not this act is empathetic at all towards those who are poor. Let's play the clip.
Ramadan Kareem, it's day one. I love Ramadan. It's a month of great things. Ramadan Kareem to everyone around the world. And white people always ask me, oh, you can't even have water? Not even water. I'm not finishing this, bro. Let's be honest. It's hard to hold, bro.
Yeah, so this clip basically that you sent me earlier, Ardijan, you know, it's kind of, it shows basically, you know, because there's so many of these videos floating around, this kind of like Ramadan mukbang basically, which I hadn't heard of before, but
yeah,
it's basically people like eating as much as they can, you know. So there's lots of these floating around the internet and on TikTok at the moment, and this is really not the spirit of Ramadan. This is not really the spirit of what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family was teaching us, you know. And you know, it's kind of, you know, not the people's fault exactly, you know.
Of course not.
We certainly don't want to shame anyone, you know, by showing these videos, because I think, you know, the majority of the people have been led so far astray from the truth. And, you know, all we're doing, you know, by showing this kind of video is just to try and bring like a bit of common sense back, you know.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, if we look at the objective of Ramadan, which is to, you know, help us develop empathy, help us to deny the self, you know, how is this huge plate of food doing anything? You know, it's cancelling out the whole day of fasting, basically. Yeah. What was the point of fasting at all if you're going to do that at the end of the day?
Exactly.
And it's turned into this occasion, you know, you see so many posts on social media as well, you know, people posting these very extravagant recipes and these feasts that they've prepared. And it's like, what's the point of fasting at all if you're going to do that? You know, the whole month is about, you know, going without in general, you know. And, you know, certainly not feasting at the end of the day of fasting, you know, it cancels out everything that we're doing, basically.
Of course not. I mean, it's what is the point then of starving yourself only to binge eat at the end of the day? And, you know, it's not just this young man who has done so, but many Muslims do that because they do not have the adequate education from the scholars or from the religious institutes that they have that actually teaches them what the true meaning of Ramadan is. And so, you know, so like as you're saying, you know, that's a great disclaimer, you know, we're not pointing towards this man and like blaming him, you know, this actually we blame the scholars and we blame
the people who are leading the religion right now, you know, leading people astray and encouraging them to do this kind of thing and have these kind of feasts. And, you know, he even says at the end of this this video, you know, he can't finish it all. It's this huge plate with this one man eating it. So what's going to happen to the rest of that food?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of that food, by the way, I mean, he himself said, he can't even finish it. And that's actually the problem with a lot of the people within the month of Ramadan, is that because you, for the very first time in months, you decide now that you're going to go in this fast. And when that happens, your appetite for food suddenly increases. You know, you at the end of the day, all you could really think about is what are you going to eat, and your eyes are, for sure, and that's certain, you know, your eyes become bigger than your stomach. You know, you'll think at the end, oh my God, I'm starving, I'm going to finish all this food, and then after like maybe 10 bites, 11 bites, you realize like, oh my God, I overcooked. And actually that is a big issue in the month of Ramadan. Actually, let me even pull up some things. Actually, let's play the next clip to actually show what else is going on in the month of Ramadan. Okay, well, you know, I mean,
so it's just
Alex,
this level of like extravagance, basically, and this, you
Yeah.
know, huge quantities of food that the people are eating. And you know what's going to happen to this food, you know, because you were talking before basically as well about how much food actually gets wasted during Ramadan, right? And it's a lot more than usual.
It really is a lot more than usual. And, you know, in this clip, what do we see? We see that, you know, the food is, oh my God, there's everything there.
Yeah.
There's appetizers, there's the main course, there's desserts, there's so much going on there. And, you know, my God, if like the whole month of Ramadan initially was meant to be so that we can be empathetic to the poor, my God, if that's how the poor eat, I want to be poor then, because look at that. I mean, that is something marvelous. But obviously, the poor do not eat like that. And yeah, we need to really go over the truth and reality. You know, there's actually another clip regarding what we wanted to talk about. But let's skip over that clip and let's go to, if we have the news article regarding the UAE and food wastage. Let's pop it up on the screen and let's see if we can examine and talk about it. So it says over here that Ramadan in the UAE, up to 40% of food untouched at restaurants.
And this is just at restaurants. Like this is
restaurants in the UAE, a Muslim country. So imagine that restaurant now that's in London, who you know, they're having a Ramadan buffet.
Almost half the food.
Yeah, almost half the food. Imagine that 40% of food that is cooked, that could have gone to the homeless, that could have gone to the hungry, that the whole point of Ramadan is to make sure that you feel the pains of hunger. You feel what poor people feel. But instead of feeling what poor people feel, you are destroying the food that is meant to be given to the poor people.
And, you know, all of this food that's being wasted, you know, the poor people are the, you know, the 9 million per year who are dying of starvation, or the 25,000 per day who are dying of starvation. They could be eating that food, you know. In the spirit of Ramadan, should we not be you know, finding a way to help the poor, to give them food, to take the food that we would normally eat during the month of Ramadan and give it to the people who are actually starving, who are actually in need? But this level of food wastage, you know, is just disturbing. You know, it's a really, really horrible statistic. And some other numbers you sent earlier, you know, you said that according to the State of Food Waste report in West Asia, this was a couple of years ago, but it was 50% wasted in Saudi Arabia, 25% in Qatar, and 40% again in the United Arab Emirates. So yeah, this is just some really disturbing figures and percentages, basically.
No, it's insane.
In Saudi Arabia, that's actually half the food.
Yeah, no, it says
got
here
wasted. Yeah,
50% of the food every day in the UAE. By the way, some statistics say 40%, others say 50%. Every day in the month of Ramadan, food is wasted, and that's in the UAE. Saudi Arabia, it's 50%. In Qatar, it is 25%. So this is a survey that they did back in 2021. But now let's go into something that is extremely disturbing. And I hope that the audience really pays attention to this, because this is going to really break for you what the month of Ramadan really is today in the Muslim world. It says council official Osama al-Zaytouni told the Arab News external website that refuse workers collect, meaning like, you know, trash collectors. They say 5,000 tons of waste was found in the first 3 days in the month of Ramadan, not including 28,000 sheep carcasses. So in Saudi Arabia, imagine that in the first 3 days of Ramadan in Saudi Arabia, in the city of Mecca, specifically Mecca, 5,000 tons of food was wasted. Alex,
and it's supposed to be like the most holy place in the world, you know, for Muslims, and how much food they're wasting.
But I don't think that people understand how much a ton is. How much is a ton?
Yeah, like, well,
it's
I can't give you the figures, but I mean, it's a very large quantity.
Yeah, it's some would say, like, you know, there's a UK ton, there's a US ton, but basically, nonetheless, it is around 1,000 kilos. So we're talking about 5,000 tons. So 5,000 tons of food that was wasted in the holy city of Mecca a few years ago in just 3 days equals to 5 million kilos of food wasted.
Yeah, and this is a country, you know, where they have incredibly poor people. and, you know, people who are living in incredibly bad conditions and extreme poverty, and, you know, especially in the countries around it as well, which that food could have gone to, you know, which is just so awful, you know, in a country which claims to be following the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, you know, in a country which is run by people who claim to be Muslims. This is, you know, as far away from Islam as it could be. This is something that the Prophet Muhammad would have never allowed to happen, and we really need to look at ourselves and look at the facts here, because it's shocking, and it's very disturbing, you know, that we have the ability, we have so much excess, we have the ability to help our fellow human being who is dying, but yet we choose not to. We choose to indulge ourselves and live in this, you know, extreme extravagance, basically.
Yeah, and the surrounding countries are actually no better. For example, out of the 5 cities or states, you could say, in the UAE, you have Abu Dhabi, which wastes 1.8 tons of food in the month of Ramadan, and that is basically 1.8 million kilos of food.
Yeah.
You have Bahrain. Bahrain is a small island, by the way. In Bahrain, 400 tons of food is wasted a day, which, if you do the math, you know, if Ramadan is 30 days, well, how many kilos of food is that? We're talking 12 million kilos of food. And Malaysia, my God, when I read this, I thought to myself, how is that possible? In Malaysia, the food wasted in the month of Ramadan, they calculated it to be 270,000 tons.
Wow.
That's 270 million. So a quarter of a billion kilos of food is wasted in the country of Malaysia by itself. And people are saying that, you know, even Christians, unfortunately, you know, Christians, atheists, people who are against Islam, they say that, you know, in the month of Ramadan globally, food is wasted the most, and it actually goes up by 25% globally.
Yeah.
That is insane. That is staggering numbers.
Yeah.
So for the people to say, you know, and that's the thing, Alex, is that a lot of people, especially today and yesterday, they make fun of us for not believing in particular things. And they even make fun of us regarding fasting in the month of Ramadan. And then, but they have the audacity to say that when it's their own fault, partially, that 25,000 people every single day starve to death while all of that food that they have goes to the trash, and they are extremely wasteful.
Yeah, you know, it's an extremely shameful figure, you know, that this amount of people are dying of starvation. They're dying from literally a lack of food, and you know, the Muslim world has such a huge abundance of food, and they're not sharing it with these people who are dying. This goes, you know, fully against the religion of Islam. And yeah, we really need to look at ourselves. You know, this is not the way it is supposed to be. And you know, Abu Sadiq, from him is peace, you know, who is the one who has come to restore the religion. He is the Qaim of the family of Muhammad, peace be upon them, and he is the one who is bringing the religion back, you know, to the true religion that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family came with. And, you know, he has explained to us what the true Ramadan should be. And this is, you know, fasting during the day and then eating like a small quantity of simple foods. So, for example, something like, basically we can have like 2 items of food maximum, you know, so it's something like rice and beans or bread and cheese, and just eating like a very frugal diet, basically, and not having all of these varieties, not having any meats, not having any fruits. And this is, you know, 100% the opposite of what we see today. And if we look, you know, if we just use a bit of common sense, we look at the reasons why we have Ramadan, okay? Why are we told that fasting is important? And it's because, like we said, to develop this sense of empathy and to deny our own ego. So the way that Abu Sadiq, from him is peace, has explained the true Ramadan, this is actually fulfilling that, you know. It is if we eat like very simple foods, if we only eat 2 food items and we don't like feast ourselves at the end of the day during Ramadan, then this is going to help us develop a sense of empathy, because this is what poor people eat. Poor people eat very simple, cheap food. They don't eat meat. They don't eat fruit, because those are the items which are expensive.
Yeah, they're luxurious.
Know? So they eat in this way, okay? And this is something it's hard, and it's hard on the ego. So, you know, these 2 aims, basically, that we have Ramadan for, you know, these are fulfilled in the true Ramadan. But if we're just fasting during the day, we're like starving ourselves during the day, and even sleeping all day, you know, some people do, they sleep all day and basically stay awake all night eating and smoking, which is what Abu Sadiq, from his peace, said in one of his sermons, you know, then we're not doing anything, you know, we're not like fulfilling any of these objectives basically that Ramadan is for. It's not getting us closer to God. It's not developing our sense of spirituality. It's not killing our ego in any way. You know, it's just this big month of festivities basically.
Yeah, it really is. And actually, let's play this. Since you mentioned Abu Sadiq from his piece, if you don't mind, let's play the next clip.
Let's play the clip. Yeah.
As for the true Ramadan, it is to abstain from all sexual pleasures and from all fruits and meats during the entire month, and only eat one humble meal a day, made from only 2 items, such as bread and cheese, or rice and beans. And the month of Ramadan is in the month of December every year. Ramadan for the Muslims today is nothing more than a month where the Muslims sleep all day and stay up all night, eating and drinking and smoking away. It is the month where the Muslims waste the most food and watch the most TV, and the month where the most sins are committed.
Yeah, that is pretty intense, and he is absolutely correct. I mean, anybody who is truthful and has a true nature within themselves that is an Adamite nature can confess. And even the Canaanites, I mean, even the children of Iblis can clearly see that he is right. I mean, in the month of Ramadan, as he stated, people enjoy lavish foods. People sleep throughout the day. The most sins are committed on that month, where people are indulged in gluttony. People, they become like the shayateen, right? Everybody says, the shayateen, they come out at night and they sleep during the day. Well, that's exactly what the Muslims are doing in the month of Ramadan. They sleep during the day and then they come out at night and do all sorts of craziness, where they stuff their faces, they lie to one another, they backbite, they gather and they smoke and they do all sorts of things together. This is not a month of God anymore. Well, it's not a month of God in the first place, because the month of God, just as Abu Sadiq said in the video, the true month of Ramadan is in the month of December, and it is not today. It is not in this month. And something that I need to say, right? Because I always picture this as a guideline. If a person does not believe in this dawah, if a person does not believe in this call, and you want to stay as a Muslim, okay, that's fine. But at the very least, give the month of Ramadan that you believe in its respect.
Yeah.
I mean, should it not be the case that if you believe that the month of Ramadan is so this way you can feel what a poor person feels, then understand that poor people do not sleep during the day. They work tirelessly during the day to provide food for their families. They eat less in order so this way they can make enough money for themselves and for their children and for their spouses and for their family members in order to continue living. And they don't eat lavish foods throughout the day. And that is why, if we just use our common sense, that is why at the end of Ramadan you have Eid. At the end, not every single day, where you're eating amazing foods only to have an amazing feast once again at the end of the month. That does not make sense. You fast throughout the month of Ramadan, and then at the end you get this amazing festivity. Yeah. Why should there be a festivity of food every single day in the month of Ramadan, where it's known statistically also that is a time in which Muslims gain the most weight? In the month of Ramadan. So no, this is not a month of seeking closeness to God. This is a month in which people have an excuse to sleep all day and eat all night. That is it, and that is a finality of this month that the people call Ramadan. The Muslims are not fasting the correct way, and the Muslims are actually doing a complete sin against the Quran, and hopefully we can pull up the Quranic verse on the screen talking about eating and drinking, where God basically states very clearly in the Quran. He states very clearly in the Quran to not be excessive, and not just be excessive in terms of worldly life, in the clothes that you wear or the things that you're doing, but also in terms of eating and in drinking, to not be excessive.
Yeah, exactly. And if anyone is watching and would like to call in and ask us any questions, please feel free to do so. And please feel free to request as a guest on TikTok if you would like to ask any questions, or if you have any comments about this topic. We'd love to hear your thoughts, regardless of what you think. Do you think that right now that people are doing Ramadan properly? We'd love to hear if you have an argument for that.
And we have the verse in the Quran over here now, where it says, in the Quran, Surah Al-Araf, verse 31, it says, O children of Adam, take your adornments, wear your clothing at every masjid, and eat and drink, but be not excessive. Indeed, he likes not those who commit excess. So what are the Muslims doing? My God, it's like they are excessively throwing out Ramadan out there in front of the people as if it's a parade, that the foods are just laid out as if like it is fit for a king.
Yeah.
It is a month of, I'm sorry, it's not the month of Ramadan. It is a month of gluttony.
Yeah,
That
and
is
it's just,
what
it just doesn't
really
make
is.
sense. Like when you think about it, like it does. What's the point of like depriving yourself all day if you're just going to do that at nighttime? Like it doesn't.
I don't get it.
You don't gain anything. You don't learn anything. It's
Brownie
not,
points.
Yeah,
it
but
seems.
it's not going to help anything. The true month of Ramadan, as Abu al-Sadiq from his peace revealed, in this sermon and in his gospel, The Goal of the Wise, is actually in December. The true Ramadan was lost to the Muslims. And there's a very important reason for this, right? And maybe we can go into that a bit.
Yes.
Because, the Muslims, after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, what happened was that they broke their covenant, They did not obey the words of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, when he said to the people that, I do not ask any payment, of what I've taught you. But just for the love of my near kin, basically,
Yes.
just for the love of my family, basically, this is all that he asked the people for. This was all that he commanded the people to do, But what we saw after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family was the opposite of that. The people, they did not show love for the family of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So this is the reason, that the Muslims, unfortunately, they were misguided away from the true month of Ramadan. So if you go to the Ahmadi religion.org, basically, you can read the Gospel of Abu al-Sadiq from his peace, The Goal of the Wise, and it explains this in detail in the chapter of the 7th Covenant. So the Muslims today, they follow this lunar calendar, right? And the lunar calendar is something that was never actually true. It was always a solar calendar.
It was.
But after the Battle of Karbala, after the death of Imam Hussein, basically, the Muslims, they were misguided away from the true month of Ramadan, basically. They lost it. There are narrations, which are stating that, they will be fasting in other than the month of Ramadan. They will be breaking fast during Ramadan. And this is the reason, basically, because the Muslims, they diverted away from this this command from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, where he said to love his family, and they did not do that. They persecuted him. They abandoned his family, and they left them, and they fought them and they killed them. So this is, this is why the religion of Islam was lost, And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, he said many other things, about the state of Islam in the future. He said that, the Muslims would be as many as stars in the sky, but they would be like the scum of the sea, There would be so many of them. And he said, that nothing would remain of Islam except its name, nothing would remain of the Quran except its writing, and the mosques would be empty of guidance, so the religion basically is lost.
Exactly.
And these are the words of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family. So he said, there's going to be so many people following the religion of Islam, but they're going to be following a corrupted version of it. This kind of misguidance away from the true Ramadan is a big example of that, because people, they just don't have any idea, first of all, that they're not following Ramadan in the correct way, and secondly, they're following it in a completely different time of the year than it's supposed to be. It was always supposed to be a solar calendar, and Ramadan is always in the month of December.
Yeah, and the one who's to blame really for the use of the lunar calendar today was actually Umar ibn Khattab, who was actually known for his so-called bid'ah hasanats, or his good innovations. And the Prophet himself said, peace be upon him and his family, that every innovation is to hellfire. So he innovated a false calendar. And the proof for that is on the screen, where we have over here the real calendar, the real Hijri calendar, and the Gregorian month. So here's the thing, right? Last year in 2024, the Muslims, they held that the first month of spring is in September. Now, how does that make sense? I mean, it doesn't make sense because, September is dead. It is a dead month where leaves have fallen, crops are not growing, there is no flowers, it is not a month of spring. But over here, what do we see? We see that Rabi al-Awwal, or the first month of spring, is in March. And right now we are in the month of March. So right now is actually Rabi al-Awwal. It is not the month of Ramadan. And in the second portion, we see that in December, it is the month of Ramadan. So that is the correct time. This is the correct calendar that is in correspondence to the Gregorian lunar calendar. The solar calendar. How did this happen? How did the Muslims suddenly lose this? Because actually even after Umar ibn Khattab, they still had the idea and they understood, okay, well, Ramadan is a cold month. It is a month in which we fast in this month. Despite them having a lunar calendar. But then check this out. We have Imam Jawad, from him is peace, who was asked, "May I be your ransom? What do you say about fasting?" It was said that they are not given success to fasting. So he's curious. He's heard rumors that Muslims are not given success to fasting. How is that the case? Because in their time, obviously, the people are fasting. They're breaking their fasts. They're making sure that the person who is the muazzin, who makes the adhan, is calling the people to the Fajr prayer, to the Maghrib prayer. So they understand that, sunrise, sunset, they're supposed to be doing it correctly. So he asks, what does this mean? Is this true, basically? So the Imam ﷺ said, indeed, the prayer of the angel against them was answered. So what was that prayer? And he said, and how is that? May I be your ransom? The companion asking the Imam. The Imam replied, he said, the people, when they killed Al-Hussein, so now the Imam is taking them back years ago. He said, and the people, when they killed Al-Hussein, alayhi salam, God the Exalted commanded an angel to call out to the people and say this: O oppressive nation that has killed the descendants of its messenger, may God not give you success neither to fasting nor to breaking fast. And how is that so? Well, the way that it's so is because the Muslims now are not able to find and recognize the true month of Ramadan. And all praise is due to God that the prayer of the angel was answered, and God, made sure that the Muslims are always set back in the month of Ramadan every 11 days, and they had not successfully been able to identify the month of Ramadan ever since.
Yeah. And, this is, we just ask people to go and research and, make their own minds up about what makes sense. And, this isn't supposed to be an attack on anyone, because we've all been misguided, okay? We all started off misguided, we were only guided when we found Abba Sadiq, from him is peace, the Qaim, and he is the only person who can provide us with guidance. So there's no shame on anyone, for following this corrupted version of the religion. This is, the only option that people had, basically, until the rise started. So, for sure, no one's at fault here. We're not trying to blame and shame anyone. But, we just ask people to examine the facts, because the facts really speak for themselves. And it's a complete contradiction that we have the month of Ramadan, but we are also, feasting during the evening, staying up during the evening and eating all night, and having all of these festivities. This is in complete contradiction to the true spirit of Ramadan.
Yeah, it really is. And, that is why we are here with the Mahdi today, who has revealed that the true month of Ramadan is in the month of December. And he has revealed really parts of the true ritualistic acts that must be conducted in the month of fasting, where, yes, just like the Muslims, you fast from sunrise to sunset, but additionally, you only break your fast with only two types of food, whether it's bread and cheese or rice and beans, very, very plain, simple foods. You do not eat fruits. You do not eat any meats. There's nothing of that at all. You also abstain from any sexual intercourse throughout the whole month of Ramadan. So even when it is time to break your fast, it's not like a person can now go be intimate with his or her spouse. It is a continuation, and it is a continuous fast up until Eid, and that is when Eid is celebrated on January. So that is the true fast of God. And there's many, many more things from the aspects of fasting that will be revealed by the Qa'im, from him is peace, because we do not have, as of right now, the whole of the rituals of fasting, but even this is enough to basically point out and to demonstrate that for sure at the very basics of abstaining from worldly desires, the Muslims are doing a terrible job in terms of conducting themselves in a true fasting, let alone the correct times. And the Muslims today, unfortunately, even when it comes to the lunar sighting, they themselves are not in agreement.
Yeah, exactly. They all
with
have
the month of
different
Ramadan.
opinions on, and that just shows, that it's not the truth, because there can only be one truth. So how can there be different opinions? How can there be these different perspectives on what the right calendar is? The right calendar, the one that makes sense, is the one that actually corresponds with the names of the months. That has a month called spring, which is actually in spring.
Exactly.
This is why, there's so many things about this which just really don't make any sense at all. As soon as we start thinking about it and thinking, objectively, what is this? The whole thing, it just completely falls apart. It just completely contradicts itself. And this is why, we really need to, it's really important that we think about our religion, we examine it, we search for the truth, and we look at the evidence, and we ask ourselves, does what we're following, do these rituals that we're performing, all the time, do they make sense? Are they getting us closer to God? Are they providing what a religion should be providing? Because if we're honest with ourselves and, we're following the mainstream version of Islam today, the answer has to be no, because this religion, it doesn't provide those things that a religion should provide at all. So, yeah, we really hope that the people, they will just look into this topic.
Yeah, and it's very important. Why? Because, at the very least, the Mahdi now has exposed the month of Ramadan for the people, and actually the people should be thanking him. The Muslims should be thanking him and saying, actually, thank you so much for actually demonstrating for us clearly that the month of Ramadan is nothing but a facade now. Any Muslim, I think, should be honest with themselves and really state, do you feel anything spiritual at all during that month? Do you feel spiritual that when at the because this is what Muslims do, by the way, Alex, is that in the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan, they go into the masjid and they pray a prayer called the Taraweeh prayer, where they pray for long hours of the night, and sometimes to the point that sometimes the Imam leads the people in prayer, but with a very, very long surah, to the point that even Muslims make fun of it on TikTok, saying that, when the Imam of the prayer, you hear him say Alif Lam Mim, which means like what? It's an indication that it's a very long surah, and then suddenly they start looking at each other like, hey, my God, we're going to be here all night now. So no, there's no spirituality for the people in the month of Ramadan. Actually, for the people of during the month of Ramadan, they're actually tired of the month. And then at the end, when it's Eid, then they're like, for some reason, I don't understand why. They're like, oh, we missed the month of Ramadan. But what did they miss? Did they miss sleeping all night and eating sleeping all day and eating all night?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I believe that we have a caller up on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
You know what? This is so funny, Hearing you is so funny.
Okay, entertain us.
Why is
it so funny?
Walaikum salam. It's so funny. I'm in stitches right now by what you're saying. You're saying that people in Ramadan, they're tired of Ramadan and they're tired of praying Taraweeh prayer. And then you're saying they pray for long hours of the night. I'm going to go to Taraweeh in just about 30 minutes. It's going to last only an hour. So when you say long hours of the night, you don't even know what you're talking about yourself.
No, actually, I do know what I'm talking about, because I myself was one of those people, by the way, who used to go into the masjids. And yes, sometimes it would be the case where it is long hours of the night. But nonetheless, Habibi...
Yeah, so you're talking about yourself when you're saying that you're tired of praying and tired of doing this. You're talking about your own personal experiences.
No, I'm not talking about
anybody else.
I'm actually talking about the experience that the Muslims have, that they are expressing all over social media, like on TikTok. But anyway, Habibi, look, you can enjoy... look, we're not attacking the people.
Yeah.
You are more than welcome to go into your masjid and pray the Taraweeh prayer. But we're just stating a fact, which is that a lot of the Muslims... Okay, mashallah, congratulations to you that you love it. Unfortunately, not a lot of people do.
What is it as well? What is it as well? It's the completion of the Quran. That's what it is, the Taraweeh prayer.
Brother, can you tell me where it is in the Quran that the Taraweeh prayer is mentioned in the Quran?
Okay, where is prayer? Where is prayer mentioned in the Quran? Where is 5 daily prayers mentioned in the Quran?
Brother, look, if you can't answer this question, we're just going to have to move on.
Brother, tell me. I'm counter questioning.
Brother, just one more time before we have to put you down, because it seems like you're very upset with what we're saying. But I'm just asking you a very simple question, because now there's a lot of disagreements with the Muslims regarding the Taraweeh prayer. I just want to ask you, Is it stated in the Quran anywhere that we should gather around as groups to pray Taraweeh in the masjids?
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Can you show me where?
The Quran? Have you read the Quran?
Yes, I have read the Quran. But now I just need the verse.
Yeah, I'll pull out the verse for you right now.
Okay.
What happens when I pull out the verse? Are you going to go to Taraweeh prayer tonight?
Brother, for sure, I'm going to go and I'm going to pull out my prayer rug. And if you could find me in the Quran where it says, go and pray the Taraweeh prayer in groups, I would love that. That would be great.
Okay, that's fine. So you're going to go pray tonight if I pull out the proof for you and show it to you right now.
Look, this conversation is becoming very circular. You're welcome to go and get this Quran verse. The point that
I'm not going nowhere, love. I'm here.
The point that we're making in this live stream is that the Ramadan that the mainstream Muslims are following today, this isn't the true Ramadan, okay? This isn't the Ramadan that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family came with, okay? It isn't supposed to be about fasting during the day and then feasting all night, okay? It's supposed to be about denying ourselves, so we develop a sense of empathy for people who are starving. It is supposed to be about denying our own egos, basically, to weaken them and strengthen the soul. Okay, and what we're seeing today is this huge amounts of festivities during the night and this huge amounts of food wastage while people are starving. And we're saying this is not what Ramadan is about. This is not what Islam is about. So we welcome you to go and research this topic.
I'm not going nowhere. I'm here already.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
Brother, look, brother. We only have about 4 minutes left on the show. So look. I'm just going to ask you once again simply, and if you can't provide, we're going to have to put you down. Can you give me the verse that talks about Taraweeh prayer?
Go to Surah 73.
Okay, can we pull up Surah 73? Surah 73, ayat number what?
1 second.
Yeah, we are running out of time, unfortunately, though.
But no worries, we will wait and we can read it together and see if this is true or if it's fiction. And, you're more than welcome to come back again, by the way. But if you could give us a verse, that would be great.
Yeah, go to Surah 73, please.
Yes, okay, we're right now in Surah 73. Just, so what ayat are we talking about?
1 second.
Okay, let's actually take this together. Yeah, let's go over this together. So the surah is called... the shrouded one, oh, you wrapped in your clothes, stand all night. It says over here, fi layla, right? Except, so stand in the night, except a little, right?
You're judging now. Carry on reading that.
Wait, brother.
Yeah,
now where does it say? Now, where does it say? Because I asked you specifically, where does it say Taraweeh prayer in groups? That's what I was asking.
Okay, so what did it say? What did you just actually read? The night prayer.
Brother,
didn't you just read about the night prayer?
What did I ask you? I said, where is the word Taraweeh mentioned in the Quran that you come together in groups for night prayer? And it says over here, it says what?
What does it say then?
Brother, I'm reading it for you, right? It says, stand the night except a little, right? Half of it or lessen from it, a little, right? But now, where does it say prayer here?
The night or a little less.
Okay, so but now where does it say prayer?
Yeah, or a little more and recite the Quran properly in a measured way.
Okay, so recite the Quran, but does it say pray?
Do you know what?
Where does it say prayer?
Mate? Look at you. So do you know what? Look at this. I'm showing it to you right now.
I mean, brother, look. It says over here, fi what? Okay, so in the night, stand a little bit in the night, right?
This really isn't disproving anything that
it says pray half the night or a little less.
No, that's brother, no. In the Arabic, the word salah is not even mentioned there. So, unfortunately, it seems like...
Where are you from? Do you speak Arabic?
Brother, the Arabic right there does not even say the word salah. And brother, look, I encourage you, actually, and I encourage the viewers, actually. I encourage the viewers to actually go to Surah number 73 of the Quran, open it up, read the first 3 surahs, and then you tell me whether or not the word salah, whether this word salah is mentioned there. Okay, let's take the man down because it seems like...
this is an emotional topic, but unfortunately, this conversation got slightly out of hand, and, the caller didn't disprove anything that we were saying in this episode or anything that Ardijan was saying.
Exactly.
So I think, the caller, you're welcome to come back in the next show, which will be with Brother Hassam and Brother Uthman. You're welcome to request as a guest and continue this conversation with them. But, please be respectful and please be polite. What we're calling towards is the true Islam. So, you know, we encourage everyone to just, you know, try and stay calm and investigate what we're saying, because it may feel shocking at first when we hear it, when it's different to what we're used to. But, you know, unfortunately, the truth that people are used to is not the truth. You know, people have been misguided away from the true Islam. So we really urge everyone to go and investigate. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this evening, but we'll be back again tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.